Next.
Carl.
I wondered when you get around to him. He's at the law courts.
Which one?
Fox you if I said the gents' loo. The Ombudsman's Court corridor, I'd say.
My friend?
Are you trying to persuade us that the only way you could make ends meet was by moonlighting? Is that it?
That's it, Mum.
In that case, you're wasting this court's time, are you not? Your appeal can only succeed if you establish some error by the Department of Employment in enforcing the withdrawal of your union card.
They never warned me.
It is not incumbent upon a Department of State to issue warnings before acting against a clear breach of the law. The law says clearly that moonlighting is forbidden.
But I've got a family and 3 kids to bring up.
Your wages as a labourer were not fixed by sticking a pin in the cost of living index. And it was always open to you to ask the Department of Social Security for emergency benefits.
Well, they did turn me down, and I wanted to help myself.
Indeed. You were helping yourself, weren't you? Not only were you moonlighting by night as a watchman, you were also moonlighting by day as a window cleaner.
I was only making enough on top to see us through a bad patch.
We didn't bring in the 3-day week to encourage greed, Talbot.
Look, all I want is my union card back, and I'll stick to labouring.
I'm surprised, Mr. Talbot. Your counsel has made nothing of the special circumstances which led to your moonlighting. I see that 6 months before you took on the extra jobs, you had a family bereavement.
Yes.
And as a result, you lost pay through absenteeism?
Yes.
His name is Carter. In the past 2 weeks, he's dissented in 73 out of the 80 appeals heard in that court. If either of the other 2 justices had backed him, it would have meant that 90% of the appeals held in that court would have been upheld, as against the national average of 2%, which is what we envisaged when we brought in these ombudsman's courts.
I don't quite see how we can assist
You're
you.
Home Secretary, Dan, and you, Scarden, are controller of the Public Control Department, and this is a matter of public control. As Attorney General, I have no power, and this is a matter of concern. And possibly for the new Law and Order Bill. I have no power to dismiss this man from the Justice's bench, or even to suspend him, as long as he's sound in body and mind.
Now, listen, Nick. We've been friends since
the courts were fancy dress balls.
Are you making a giant out of one daft old justice?
He's 35.
But it's not as if his appeals were upheld. He was in the minority.
2 were.
2 out of 80, that's nearly normal.
One germ can start an epidemic. One justice goes wrong, and before you can say, damn it, every ombudsman's court in the land will be playing daft beggars. We've a country to run, Dan, and nobody's going to say it went wrong through my courts.
Your courts?
You want us to have this man certified for treatment?
See this, Scarden?
Sir General.
See what's under it? Well, do you?
Only the stamp that it's on.
Right, Scarden. You know the last time I wore it?
Sorry?
Something wrong with your hearing, Scarden.
Huh?
The last time I wore this, I was prosecuting for the state in a criminal trial that should never have been brought. The offence was walking all over us. But what was under this, Scarden, was this. Brains. Imagination. I had that bloke put down for 7 years. Now, you've got no wig, Scarden. Not much hair, either. So what's under the dome?
Oh, don't take it out on him, Dick. You've got the message. You'll get no opposition from me.
No, I won't, Dan.
We'll find a way, Attorney General.
Thank you, Scarden. sure about him, Dan?
No, it's more of a persuasion job.
Adult Rehabilitation Centre? Short course?
The Attorney General would think that too obvious.
Bug him. His house. Let him know we're doing it.
From his dossier, it would appear that Carter is not vulnerable to goose pimples, and we don't have much time.
Carter's in Ombudsman's Court 7 today.
That's right.
So's Kyle.
Now, why? What's there to interest him in that court?
One guess or two.
No, not him. What can he know about Carter?
When a justice starts shaking his head and goes against the other two justices, it's bound to get around. He's been so well behaved, so orthodox in every way. Till now.
Not quite.
Well, there's nothing to indicate a rebel here.
Page 9. See what he did to one of our own family affairs inspectors who was asking his wife why they'd had no children.
The inspector shouldn't have asked. It's all in the Carter's medical printout anyway.
Carter dotes on his wife.
That makes him more interesting.
And vulnerable, Deli.
Henry's right.
We have taken account of the circumstances which led to your breach of the labour laws. But we also believe that you had no excuse for this moonlighting. You knew the regulations.
I don't get my union card back.
Another 7 months, and you may apply to the department and to your union.
But what about my flat, our home?
If your flat's that of a registered worker,
You know it is.
then it'll be up to the Department of Housing to decide on your status, whether you should be relegated to a 4th grade housing unit. Appeal dismissed. And now the next case is appeal number 19742.
Great Home Affairs correspondent grabbed by one dreary moonlighter.
Our Deputy Controller, PCD, grabbed by 3 poor hacks.
Shh. You have the Newsmen's Union after you.
The essence of your
I've only
appeal
come in to get out of the cold, Deli.
We can hardly
is
talk
that
here.
you've not
I don't
had
want to
5
talk,
children,
I want to
as
listen.
The records and the registrar's report suggest, but only 4, and therefore challenge the sterilisation order issued by the Family Affairs Inspectorate.
That's it, ma'am. 4.
You have a doctor as a witness.
There's no doctor can say if I've had 4 or 5. Not for sure.
Oh, I suppose not.
That I would think is incontrovertible, unless the doctor was present at all 5 births.
You do have legal aid.
Pardon, ma'am?
You have a lawyer. Oh, very well.
Legal aid. Legal
I
handicap.
see it's the second of your 5
Never
children.
thought to find you fishing.
Let's go.
That's a matter for the court to decide.
I never thought to find you fishing in such a piddling pond.
Ah, dear Deli, I haven't been fishing since I was netting tittlers in a polluted pond in Hackney. I was 9 years old.
Ombudsman's Court indeed. 10 lines on page 7 at the most.
I told you. Came in to get warm. To keep the central heating high here so that the officials don't get bronchitis. Because in our newspaper we freeze to death to save electricity. Mind you, in the state rag, well, they're sweating all the time.
I'm against overheated offices.
I'm against pampered bureaucrats.
It is Carter you're interested in, isn't it? I mean, all these little people appealing against them.
Little people? Oh, Deli, really?
You'd be a fool to back Carter. Not that you get a line in the paper. Your editor's having trouble with his spine these days. It's turning to jelly.
All right, Deli, who are you running errands for today? Scarden? Dan Miller? Well, I'm not frightened of either, and I'm certainly not frightened of you.
You've not yet crossed our boilermaker's son who got a second-in-law and finds the old Star Chamber rather wet.
Graham?
Himself. The Attorney General. Companion of honour, and so on.
Oh, don't keep giving me shocks, Deli. After all, I'm over 40, you know.
You'll soon feel 90 if Graham sets on you. You'll only get hurt.
That matters.
Believe it or not. Why take risks? You can't do anything about Carter's one-man revolt. Law and Order Act 1987. You can't interview him. Official Secrets Act 1986. So why hang about?
Because I like the open space, love tradition, I adore the central heating.
I don't want you hurt.
And in that case, tell your legal eagle to lay off or cut his talons.
Kyle,
Yes, Deli.
you can't sponsor losers. And Carter can only lose.
Now, what you're saying, Yates, is that the second child was not yours, but the illegitimate offspring of a friend you choose not to name.
I don't remember her name.
Why don't you wish to produce the child in court?
She'd be frightened. She's old enough to know what's going on.
We'd not wish to frighten her. The blood tests don't prove she couldn't be your child.
No more than they prove she is.
Mrs. Yates, even if the child were to be here today, and even if she looks very much like you, that wouldn't prove anything either, would it?
Adopted kids often grow up to look like the people who bring them up.
My colleague is right, Yates. This court would like, to see how similar you and the child are.
In the State versus Broadley trial in 1987, Judge Withers ruled in favour of the State's claim that physical similarities could not be used as evidence of relationship. 6 months later, Judge Slade upheld that ruling, and I looked like my uncle-in-law, but he was impotent all his life.
No home to go to?
If you've lost interest, you're very wise.
Or cowardly?
I know fools who used to try crossing the English Channel in boats made for the Thames.
Really? Well, they certainly were fools. Mind you, of course, nowadays they wouldn't be allowed to be so dotty, would they? Now they'd have to sign 7 forms in triplicate. Then they'd have to wait for the marine inspectors to say yes or no. And then they'd have to hand in their passports, and even then they wouldn't get beyond the Thames barrier. Never mind, Ellie. Keep trying.
Not for me. I'm a Class 1 bureaucrat with the right to drive my own car in central London. I don't want to be breathalyzed.
Well, surely they'll let you off.
Not turncoats. They'd hang me for beating the speed limit.
What are you going to have then? Dandelion and burdock?
Excellent. When I was young, Carl, my father used to tell me Fleet Street was an exciting place full of eccentrics.
Yeah, it was. Indeed it was. Mind you, that lot are all dead now in paupers' graves.
We'll come again.
Just a minute. We?
We.
What is it?
A proof, Mr. Kyle.
Later. Proof. I've written damn all lately. I am bound. Hand, foot and typewriter.
I know. Law and Order Act 1987, Official Secrets, Additional Powers Act 1986. You still have ways.
And what about you, Mr. Carter? 1 justice in 1 ombudsman's court.
Somebody has to kick off.
You be careful your team doesn't kick you up the backside.
I want us out of this dark age, Kyle. So, you've guessed what I'm up to.
No, it's not guesswork. Do sit down. I hear that you have been personally prepared to uphold 73 out of 80 appeals.
83 out of 90 after today.
What about the woman today in the court with 5 kids?
We upheld the sterilization order. The other 2 outvoted me.
And why do you bother to go on? You know you're going to be beaten always, 2 to 1.
Because one of the other 2 might just straighten up and look the world in the eye again.
Which one?
Not the chairperson, Carl. She's sold out, lock, stock, and what she had for a heart, but Aldwick, just possible.
Well, there is no cure for a jellied spine, is there?
I'll supply the splints if only he'd wear them.
Yeah. Same disease that my managing editor suffers from.
You asked to meet, Carl.
Later. Mr. Carter, I don't know how much further you're prepared to stick your neck out. After all, it's your neck.
I haven't pulled back so far.
Sorry. Yes. Where, Marley? Right, thank you. I'm sorry, something urgent has come up. Does anybody know you're here?
No.
Excuse me. Location bug, Mark 1. Well, they certainly know you're here. Mind you, that was to be foreseen. Still, you can always say that you came to put a small ad in the newspaper. Wanted, 1 marine engine.
How did you know that?
Mr. Carter, you are refitting a boat upriver. You have a stable marriage. No children. Your wife had 2 miscarriages. So you adopted. Then the natural mother found security by marrying a grade 1 official like yourself. She then exercised her option of reclaiming the child under the 6-month rule. Your wife is pregnant again.
Anyone would think you were plugged into the PCD computer.
It flows over every now and then. You have an account at the State Bank, Whitehall branch. Another account at the Greater London Council Bank.
I'm wondering if I should have come here.
Oh, yes, I think you should. I want you to take this home with you. It's an anti-bugging device. It's the PCD's latest toy. Very hard to come by. When you switch that on, you'll bust their eardrums. Then you and your wife can talk as if Britain was free again.
As I said when last we met, Kyle, our friend Carter is causing grave displeasure. I mean, you can't sit up there in judgment wanting to let people off. And our Attorney General has delusions. He's Cardinal Wolsey. He's come down so hard on poor brother Dan that he might well be wishing he were back at the coal face. The first strike at Carter, Kyle, will be through Mrs. Carter. They're a devoted couple.
Yes, Jenny, we're waiting for Philip to get back. Yes, I know. The court seems to sit longer and later every day. Oh, he should be back in an hour or so. Oh, baby's fine. Keep your fingers crossed. Somebody at the door. I must go, darling. Bye.
I still don't understand, Mackley. No reason why the Public Control Department should want to see me.
Well, we don't wish to upset her, darling.
Good chap, good tactics.
It could be, could well be there's been some mistake.
There hasn't.
Jones' dying words will be meant for the recording machine.
He's skillful.
If deviousness be the mark of skill, look out for your job, Herbert.
Bimbo! Bimbo, for heaven's sake! Bimbo, will you be quiet? Bimbo!
I didn't come here to judge Crufts.
It's not my pooch, sir.
Can't you cut out the damn barking?
No, sir.
That'll do, Bimbo. Otherwise it's out.
You always so fierce, Mrs. Carter?
Fierce. Wouldn't frighten a fly.
Well, he frightens me. We should have all gone and had anti-rabies injections first. Some teeth he's got.
He does have to eat bones.
Not mine, Mum.
Well, Mr.
Jones. Inspector Jones, PCD.
That's quite high up, isn't it?
Oh, about halfway, Mum. Looks very well fed.
Why do you keep going on about the flaming dog? Carter will be back soon. He'll have lost half of his advantage.
Jones likes to spin out the agony. It's his technique. If he ever took up fishing, he'd never let the fish off the hook.
I've never met a PCD inspector before, Inspector.
Is she being disrespectful?
She's the wife of a justice.
Come to think of it, I've never met anyone from the PCD except at a cocktail party, and he seemed rather civilized.
I shouldn't think we've ever had cause to meet you officially, Mrs. Carter.
You have now?
In your husband's interests. You shop at the State Arcade, Oxford Street?
Yes.
You were there yesterday.
Yes.
You bought some clothing.
Yes.
Underwear.
Yes.
I'd like to see it, Mrs. Carter, your underwear. I mean, the stuff you bought.
I'm wearing some of it.
I'd still like to see it.
That's what I like about Jones. No messing about.
We should have sent a female inspector.
I think you're being impertinent. I must ask you to leave.
What a shy lady.
We'll stay as long as we have to, Ma'am. And that says so.
My husband will be home in a minute. You can explain to him.
Your husband won't be home for at least half an hour. Even if he can't start the car after he's telephoned you from the court at 6:20. So, it's probably better if we sort that out without him being here.
Why are you trying to frighten me?
Good Lord, ma'am, we don't want to do that. We're here to help you. to reassure you. They're like the ones you've got on, aren't they, Mrs. Carter? I beg your pardon, I mean, like the ones you bought.
Why are you here?
Oh, it's a formality, really. If you'll just show us the receipt.
Receipt?
State arcades always give a receipt, Ma'am.
Which I either leave or I throw away. You're not trying to say that I'm a shoplifter?
Oh, no. Oh, Mrs. Carter. Not an habitual shoplifter. Is that you, would you say, Mrs. Carter?
It can't be.
Well, the coat. You have a coat like that.
Yes, but it's not me.
Headscarf, roll neck blouse?
I do have clothes like that, yes, but it's not me. It's not me, I tell you. It's fake. Oh, no, you can't do this. You can't.
What is going on in there? I've said it before, I'll say it again. We need visual monitoring.
Oh, I don't know, Herbert. It gives your imagination a night out.
Kindly keep your impertinences to yourself, Miss Lemness.
Are you saying that's not you, Mrs. Carter?
No. The last was me, but not the others.
You see now why we chose to see you alone, Mrs. Carter. Those pictures were taken by a photographer from the State Arcade security staff. Has sworn a statement.
Saying I was shoplifting? I wasn't. He knows I wasn't. You know I wasn't. Those who sent you know I wasn't.
Oh, don't mind. Just a poor public servant sent to cope, Ma'am.
So why the PCD and not the police?
Well, you are the wife of a justice. Difficult.
That is none of your business. And where did you train? The State School for Public Service Sadists?
Mrs. Carter, I don't think you should talk to my men like that. They do have feelings.
Him? Where? So, I'm to be set up as a shoplifter so that you can damage my husband's career?
We're trying to protect him, actually.
Why wasn't I arrested in the arcade?
Oh, you nearly were, Ma'am. But it was felt by your style of dress, your presence, that you were a special citizen, so we just followed you.
Straight back here.
Straight back here.
I didn't come straight back here. I went to the home for the mentally handicapped children in Richmond. My voluntary shift. May I see those photographs again, please? Take me first free any other time.
That's seditious talk, Mrs. Carter. I should be careful if I were you.
So I'm to be charged? Show trial, all that?
Oh, that depends. Talk it over with your husband is what I suggest. I suppose having no children of your own yet, Mrs. Carter, you're extra fond of him. Pets can be a great consolation. Me, I've 2 kids. We haven't got any pets. Well, mine have nothing against them, mind you. Providing they don't foul the footpath, bite people. Does he bite, Mrs. Carter?
Thank you, Ed.
I'll stop it. I'll turn it in. I can't.
You can go on.
No, it's the end. You can't stop a bulldozer. You just get flattened.
Don't stop now. Don't give up now.
You don't know half, darling. You don't know them. When I think how my old man said it could never happen here. Well, they don't hang people. They don't use the birch, and as far as we know, they're not using the dry wrapper treatment, even in the ARCs, yet. But they've turned discipline into the nastiest fine art the world has ever known. They make the Marquis de Sade look like a neglected saint.
I'm not stopping now, not because of this. Never even seen one before.
No white walls, no bed of nails. We've given our word to the European Commission on all that nonsense, but you don't know them.
There's no turning back.
We could get out.
Emigrate? You'd never get a visa.
Illegally.
You've said for a long time now, you've said that people should Stay and fight. Resist.
And watch them making you suffer.
I'm not that fragile, Philip. How about some supper?
You're not without intelligence, Davis. When you were instructed to take work up north, you should have put in an immediate appeal on compassionate grounds.
He did.
Is it
See what I
recorded?
mean?
Well, the guy's got guts. Any more like him?
I don't know. We're hoping it might prove infectious.
They'll see it as a kind of VD. They'll nail him first.
Through his wife. Remind me to tell you about it.
I see now that indeed you did appeal on the grounds that your son was in trouble with the police and that your daughter had fallen in with undesirables.
Blokes with records, and twice her age.
The Public Control Department sent a Family Affairs Inspector to help.
Help? You should have seen her. She wouldn't have known a family crisis from a cup match.
Won't help your case, Davis, to denigrate public servants. Under the Mobility of Labour Act 1986, you were instructed to work in Durham for 6 months where your tool setter skill was needed. You decided to defy the order.
I didn't defy it. I couldn't go.
Or wouldn't.
I'd go now, anywhere. I don't want my family in a Class 4 housing unit.
You should have thought of that when you chose to refuse to work in the North. You knew that your refusal could mean the loss of your union card and relegation to non-worker housing.
I couldn't go.
He's a loner, Jim. On his own.
How about you?
I'm a boozy old womanizer.
With 100 million readers in the States.
By a majority decision, this court finds it cannot uphold your appeal, Davis.
I never thought it would. Ombudsman's Court, you're a fix. You would know justice from a kick in
This
the...
court will resume at 1400 hours.
If you say what you're after, I might help.
Well, you haven't been too helpful so far, Mrs. Carter. What's this?
I should have thought it was obvious.
Tell me.
French perfume.
Top quality. I bet you appreciate being a luxury goods card holder, Mrs. Carter. And this?
Baby clothes. And I kept the receipt.
Pity you lost the other.
You won't beat us, you know. You never make us give in.
What?
My husband and I.
Where did I hear that before? When I was small.
You're still small.
Mrs. Carter, have you tried tablets to make you less hostile? It's a nasty limp you got there, Frank. You ought to be on sick leave. Sharp fangs your dog's got. Nasty bite.
There was no bite.
You were here when it happened?
I was here when it didn't happen. He's never bitten anyone in his life.
Tell Frank.
You weren't bitten.
I can still hear that bite.
You lie.
Oh, Mrs. Carter. Frank hasn't made a complaint yet. But I must warn you. Dogs aren't even allowed one bite under the Animal Control Act of 1988. Rabies. Frank had to be injected last night.
I'm not prepared to see her go to jail.
So it's back to towing the line, is it?
Well, she'd go out of her mind in jail.
She wants you to go on. You've just said so.
Insists. I don't know. I just don't know.
I know what you're thinking, Kyle. But I'm not going soft. I'm not even scared of being kicked out, as much as I love the British. No, I'm weighing up what we're getting for what right now. Now, I tell America they're persecuting your wife to get you back on program. Well, the sanctions lobby might be strong enough just to make the PCD pull off. Or it could be the PCD would deny it and still make life hell for you, your wife, or anybody else who makes waves.
So if things don't change, what's the point?
Well, who am I to urge you to fight on? I'm stuck here on this ever-increasingly limp rag. I'm bound by the Official Secrets Act, the Contempt of Court Act. I'm bound by miles and miles of steel chains that they made out of what used to be red tape. I've got a managing editor who looks every day more and more like a castrated jellyfish. And this is supposed to be the most independent newspaper on this street of journalistic junkies living on their fix of state handouts. Who the hell am I? No, it's your risk, Mr. Carter.
One puff doesn't tilt a windmill.
True. Well, there's nothing in it for you, is there? Not even a red badge of courage.
My wife's the one who's brave. Look, I can't see her on the rack.
You stood up to another day, didn't you?
We are putting him under a certain amount of pressure, Attorney General.
A certain amount?
Considerable.
Listen, out of 9 appeals heard in that court today, he wanted to uphold 8. It's open defiance. Before long, they'll all be at it.
One of our teams has visited his wife twice.
I don't wish to know, Cardinal. Just see that Carter toes the line again. A certain amount of pressure. And that's the controller of your PCD, Dan. He vomited the sight of a bruise. He's wet.
He's as much a hard liner as you.
I'm a lonely man making sure the law's carried out.
You know what they say about you behind their hands? They say you'd have your grandmother put away if she grumbled about a food ration.
She's dead. But I was fond of her.
Oh, one thing. The press are sniffing.
And this Carter thing? Not Kyle. You'll get nothing in. And this is like the rest of the journalistic eunuchs.
And his Washington Post chum, Burbank.
Punch him. Remind him of our powers of expulsion.
How about the sanctions against Britain lobby in Washington?
Get somebody to make sure that he's in court 7 tomorrow, right?
There might be a way. Perhaps your wife should get out.
Emigrate.
Well, they can hardly persecute her, can they, when she's 3,000 miles away?
How's that possible?
Well, it's possible.
How is it possible?
There's a way, Ed.
With a dog?
With a what?
A dog. She wouldn't go unless the dog went too.
Well, I suppose it could be fixed, yes. Providing the dog, of course, knows when not to bark.
And where's the gain? They'd bust me as a justice for just being married to her.
Why should they? You'd condemn her going louder than anybody else. Then, 3 or 4 days in court, you behave yourself. You'd say no to every single poor devil that came up before you. You would be the justice doing his duty to the state in spite of enormous pressure from the wife he loves, all that bull.
I see.
And then, when we are ready and when everybody's looking, and believe me, I'd make sure that every single member of the Foreign Press Corps was in that court, then you would start. And then you would uphold every single appeal that came before you.
Well, I wouldn't mind being kicked out on a story like that. But what happens to him then?
You join his wife in the States.
Just like that?
Yes.
How can you be so sure?
Mr. Carter, do you know how many people are getting out of this country every month?
Yes, about 70.
240 at a conservative estimate. Well?
Well, what about the PCD? They've eyes in the back of their heads. They'd never let me out of their sight.
It's your choice.
You know people who could be sure of getting me out, don't you?
Mr. Carter, I am very particular about the company I keep.
I'll talk to my wife about it.
Don't forget to switch on that machine I gave you first.
You know, Jim, some of my more melodramatic pals back home with their fevered musings, they will keep going on and on about this Pimpernel 1990.
Oh, yeah. I've read their stuff.
And you don't know him?
Does he even exist? Oh, come on, Ed. What am I, a poor hack writer?
Getting less and less in the paper.
So they pay my salary.
And leave you with plenty of spare time. And I sure as hell can't see you playing golf or pruning roses.
Oh, you're so right. Still, I've got other hobbies. Come on. Still got time to buy you a noggin.
You sure they didn't come again today?
They didn't come. Stop worrying.
You sure? Oh, well, you always have told me the truth.
I think Bimbo's putting weight on.
They did call. Somebody called.
Haven't told me how it went in court today.
Somebody called.
Yes, Francine called Pat, Jenny Stubbs. She wants me to start a course in painting at the Open University. I think she's feeling at a bit of a loose end since the boys started their national service.
Same gang of PCD hooligans came today. They did, didn't they? You can't hide it from me. You're frightened.
And you're hungry. I'll see how supper's getting on. We're alive.
They were here.
You're hurting my wrist.
I can smell them. I could smell them as soon as I came in. The bastards were here.
Well, I intend to forget all about them.
Forget? What did they do? What did they do?
I think the Bimbo's looking fat.
Did you hear me? What did they do?
Oh, they went on about what happens to shoplifters, things like that.
What do you mean, things like that?
I thought Bimbo was looking
What
so
things?
fat the day that I took her for 3
What
weeks.
things, for God's sake?
Oh, darling, they weren't very nice to Bimbo.
Not very nice. What, they hurt her? They trod on her? Oh, don't tell me she bit one of the bastards.
No, darling.
Oh, just tell me she didn't.
No, she didn't, but they're trying to say that she did. Well, are they chosen because they're sadists, or do they pick it up in training?
Now listen. You're getting out of this hell-bent island.
Not without you, I'm not. And Bimbo.
You're going first.
And you?
I'll follow.
Oh, you'd never get out.
I said I'll follow.
When, in time for the baby to be born, you always said you wanted to see him born.
When I've done all I can.
And Bimbo?
Oh, we'll find a way.
Oh, look, they can't get all the people away, never mind
I
pets.
said we'll find a way. Oh, maybe she won't be able to travel with you. I just don't know.
And you in that court?
Oh. Hardline Carter all of a sudden. A lawyer with a capital L for lackey. Every appeal, every single one, I'll agree to turn down till you're safely in the States.
This appeal's turned down. Think of the misery.
They'd be turned down anyway.
I
2
thought
to 1.
You were hoping that Aldrich would turn and make it 2 to 1 your way.
He's so chicken he'll soon be laying eggs.
I'm not going.
Oh, yes, you are. I can't do a thing while they can hurt you.
May I crave the attention of the court?
The court would be honoured, Attorney General.
It is now my policy to visit our excellent Ombudsman's courts from time to time. I've listened to the appeals this morning with great interest, and in this case with a lawyer's concern. In his appeal against the food ration inspector's decision to degrade him and his family to Class 4 ration books, thus losing entitlement to fresh meat and semi-luxury foods, the appellant claims that he is being punished for a crime which he did not commit. He makes the point that he was cleared in the criminal court for insufficient evidence of being involved in the black market in food. Now, the food ration inspectors have the power to regrade or downgrade any citizen without explanation. And we must be careful in challenging the decisions of such loyal public servants. However, I do feel, in this instance, justice would not seem to be done if this appeal were not to be upheld.
Thank you, Attorney General. We find your words most helpful. Appeal upheld. And now appeal number 125734.
Ah, Burbank.
Sir?
I'm sure your readers will welcome the openness and fairness of our Ombudsman's courts. Hey, Kyle?
Portia, Marshall Hall, F.E. Smith, and now you, sir. Does the world deserve such justice?
I admire your sense of history, Kyle.
Quite a change to see the ringmaster actually in the circus.
Oh, no, please, please,
We
not
don't
that.
enjoy it, ma'am.
Leave him alone.
We really don't.
He didn't hurt anybody. Just leave him alone. He didn't
We're
bite
only
your
doing
back.
our duty, that's all, ma'am.
He didn't bite
One of my
your
colleagues is on sick leave, ma'am. Now, let our domestic pets officer do his job.
You're not having him. You're not taking him out of this house.
Mrs. Carter, don't excite the dog. He's savage enough as it is.
Savage. Oh, no.
Right.
Oh, no, not that, please.
It's only a tranquilizer,
Oh,
ma'am.
no.
We won't put him down in front of you. We don't do things that way.
He'll come round in about half an hour. Having a him down then, he won't be.
Why doesn't he tell her she'll get her dog back?
He knows what he's doing. He's the most devious Welshman I've ever met, and that's saying something.
He should tell her.
If he told her that, she mightn't call the errant husband of hers, and that is the name of this game.
If he told her that, she'd know she still has an option.
Jones is one of the most experienced field inspectors we've got. He's got her weighed up, you can be sure of that, Daddy. He's not crude. I wouldn't put it past him to take that damn dog back to himself tomorrow, when her husband's learned the error of his ways.
He should still tell her.
Never thought to see you becoming sentimental, Daddy. Thought you were made of sterner stuff. You're getting soft.
No. Practical.
The burden of your appeal, Clayton, is twofold, is it not? You were dismissed from your post as senior history teacher at Wellworth Comprehensive because you persisted in departing from the agreed syllabus.
Where I disagreed with it.
You're appealing against the dismissal and asking for reinstatement. And secondly, against the decision of the PCD to refuse you an exit visa to emigrate to the United States.
They'll not let me teach here, and they'll not let me out to teach abroad.
You have witnesses?
Witnesses? That's the funniest thing I heard since one of my kids said Henry VIII invented slimming pills.
Arrogance will get you nowhere, Clayton. So you can't say you didn't have adequate warning. The headmaster advised you.
Leaned on me.
He advised you 4 times.
After each of 4 visits from the school's inspector.
When they start burning the books here, it'll be
The
the school's inspectors who'll
deeply
supply the matches.
concerned about what you were doing to those poor children's minds, Clayton. And there was this conflict over your description of Stalin as the most monstrous tyrant the world has ever known. The words are yours, Clayton.
He was.
But the agreed syllabus laid
They've
down...
been doing a post-mortem repair job on his image.
Try not to be smart at the expense of this court, Clayton.
I'm being factual.
They'd love this
More than
guy
can
at
be said
Harvard.
for the Rewrite men they've got.
Don't worry,
Turning
he'll
our
get
history
there.
into fiction.
Don't bank on it.
Did it ever, for one
Would you
moment,
like to
occur
bet?
to you that the agreed syllabus might be right? That the headmaster and the school's inspector might be right, and that you, just conceivably, might be wrong?
It did cross my mind, yes.
And what did you come up with?
That I was right.
I would think
There are
that
far
very
more
much
of us than you think, Ed.
I quite often
They'll
am
crucify him. Look, even Carter's
Look at this,
again the guy.
Are you ever wrong, madam?
You should have left your arrogance in the classroom, Clayton. We're not juveniles.
No. You're quite wrong. I never told my pupils that it was in the late 70s the British chose to give up their freedom. I said that people were tired and baffled and deceived and allowed second-rate men to... Sorry, 10th-rate men to begin to filch their liberty.
Aren't you splitting hairs?
Great guy, but a born loser.
All I see, Clayton, is a program of dissidence on your part. A series of departures from the agreed syllabus.
I'm a teacher, not a recorded message.
I'm glad my children were never in your class. You can't afford to be a one-man band, Clayton.
Janie, I'm losing this one now. I know. I can feel it. Janie, don't call Philip. Please, don't call Philip.
The court has been most indulgent, Clayton. Unless you have anything to add that is not just a diatribe against reputable historians and educationalists...
May I once more crave the indulgence of the court?
Attorney General.
Just as earlier I supported an appellant, now I must make it clear that our friend has no case in law. He flew in the face of the agreed syllabus for schools. He admits that he was awkward, indeed defiant, and possibly this represents his opportunism. He would like to teach in America, where the rewards are so much greater.
I want to stay here.
That is what he says. I believe this court should see through his tactics and reject outright his appeal to have his job restored and his appeal for an exit visa.
Attorney General or Chief Warder?
Philip? Philip?
Sorry?
You did hear the Attorney General's statement.
Vaguely.
Philip,
I heard.
so we reject the appeal.
No.
Oh, all right, you don't look well.
I'm fine.
Well, you don't look
I'm fine, and I want the appeal upheld.
You can't have heard the Attorney General.
I heard him. Stan, come on, Stan. He was teaching history honestly, Stan. Come on, just for once. Back me this time.
You're overwrought. I don't know what's causing it.
They can't get away with it, can they?
It's your business.
Appeal upheld, Stan. Back me this time.
Well, he was going against the truth.
Or will it?
I'm not sure.
Oh, whatever the price?
We can't possibly uphold this appeal.
Stan.
He has a case.
But you heard the Attorney General.
Appeal upheld.
We can't.
Appeal upheld.
Appeal upheld.
Look, I can't announce it. I mean the Attorney General.
Appeal upheld 2-1. Announce it!
By a majority decision, we find for the appellant. Appeal upheld.
That means I can have my job back. With my pupils.
Or leave the country.
You can have your job back.
Thank you. That's what I want. Don't you dare write an obituary on this sceptred isle yet. Not yet, Mr. Burbank.
Well, if I were a bookie, Kyle, I'd lay 1,000 to 1 on you lot.
Court will adjourn for 1 hour.
Attorney General, sir. Remember what happened to Cardinal Wolsey?
Just for the record, Carl. 3 miscarriages, not 2. The PCD called on my wife again today. I don't know the shabby details, but morally, if not in law, they must be murderers. I'll be in touch then.
Fraternizing with one of our justices? Shame.
You're a fine one to talk about shame.
Oh dear. Did you have a stinking lunch or none at all?
You know what your mafia have just done to him, don't you? They've simply ripped his heart out.
I do wish you'd not get emotional, Carl.
You know, Dilly, sometimes I wonder about you. I don't think you were born at all. I think you were just assembled.